We want to find all real numbers on the interval from 0 to 2 pi that satisfy this equation. As I'm looking at this equation, I see I've got a squared trig function and I got the same trig function not squared. So that kind of leads me to believe, let's get everything on one side equals 0 and see if we can factor it. So we're going to leave the sine squared here. We're going to move the 3 sine x over. And then we still have the plus 1. Now we have nothing on the other side, so equals 0. So we're going to see if we can factor this, and you've got kind of two choices. After you've done a few of these, you can probably just factor them like they are with the trig functions, but if it's hard to see, you can do a substitution and let u be sine x, and then this equation becomes 2u squared minus 3u plus 1 equals 0. And that might be easier for you to think about factoring. It's a quadratic factoring. We're going to break it down and have two linear factors. So let's see about factoring that. We'd make our two sets of parentheses equals 0. We'd need a 2u and a u to get a positive end but negative middle. They'd both have to be negative, and 1 times 1. If we check the middle, we got negative u and negative 2u, which is our negative 3u. So that does factor. Now you can do that like that and then put the sign back in, or you can just initially factor it and put the sine x here and the sine x here, and know that that front is 2 sine x squared, and then look at your plus 1. So it's got to be 1 and 1, but the middle needs to be negative, so negative and negative. So it's up to you if you want to do the u substitution and then get it back in terms of x, or just factor it with the trig function in it. But bottom line, once you get it factored, then you do what you would do with most quadratic equations, which is you'd set each factor equal to 0 and solve it. So we'd start with this one, 2 sine x minus 1 equals 0. Getting the sine x by itself, we'd have sine x equals 1/2. Now when we answer these, you always need to remember, are we going to answer for everything and we need the plus 2 pi k, or are we going to answer on an interval? And this one is on the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So I just need to ask myself, where on the unit circle would the sine value be 1/2? And we've got two places that would be the case. The sine would be positive in quadrant 1 and the y value smaller, and then in quadrant 2 the sine is also positive with the y value smaller. So we can see those two answers are going to be pi sixths and 5 pi sixths. And now we need to go over to this other factor and put that equal to 0. So we'd have sine x minus 1 equals 0, and that means sine x equals 1. And we think, where on the unit circle is the sine 1? And there's just one spot. It's right there at pi halves. So we also get pi halves.